Hey, everybody. Welcome to another conversation. I have the golden opportunity of being in this room and meeting some of the most beautiful people that I've ever met that I never knew before. Every single person that's come into this room, I have to be honest, not every single one. A few people I've known a little bit before. One of them was my wife. I think I know her also. But most of the people that have come into this room, I have no idea who they are. They show up in the room. I know nothing about them. I don't know if I'm catching them, on a good day, a bad day, a right day, a wrong day. And it doesn't matter because we just come into this room. My sole objective in this room is to love and accept people, to listen to people and hear them, and to acknowledge and validate them. I have one obligation that I have to get out of the way. This show is being sponsored by the Mosaic, the book over my left shoulder. The Mosaic is a story about a boy who loses his parents 2 years apart on the same day. And when he asks the adults where his parents are, they tell him they're in a place called heaven. So the boy, right that moment, sets out in search of the place called heaven. But the people he meets along the way are not the rabbis and priests and swamis and gurus and shamans and ministry and medicine women. They are a homeless guy and a street worker, a trash man and a waitress. They're a juice man and a gardener. And he wonders to himself, why am I meeting these people? What are these people going to show me about heaven? They seem like they're just common, ordinary people. But he says, I'm here with them. Why don't I just listen to them tell me their story? And in every single case, when he listens to their stories, what he hears is he hears something that makes him see that the person he initially saw was not at all who they were. And when he has that happen to him over and over again, he wonders, do I see anything in life the way it is? Or do I see everything in the life the way I am? And what would happen if I moved myself out of the way and would allow people to be themselves without my perception of who they are blocking that? And at that moment, he sees a monk unzipping the sky and inviting him to come into a parallel reality which he goes. And the monk introduces him to the wise one who's the keeper of the Mosaic. At that point, the story in the book changes a little bit. It's a beautiful book. Words are beautiful. Spaces between the words are beautiful. If you feel like you would like that story, we would love you to get it from Amazon. That obligation is now over. So we are here now with Laurie Herbers. Laurie Herbers, welcome to the conversation. How are you today?
I am great. I'm happy to be here. How are you?
I'm okay. There's a lot going on in the world. And
Yeah.
so the easiest three words to say are, how are you? And the quickest two responses are, I'm great, I'm fine. But I really want to know how you are. I want to take a moment and just ask it again under the context of we're going through a pandemic, we're quarantined, we're going through a civil rights movement where a lot of what we believe is no longer in place. We're going through a Me Too movement where we're being asked to question the way we women are and the way we show up with women in our lives. We're in the middle of watching a lot of our institutions crumble because of decay that we're seeing in them. We're in a chaotic time. How are you within this moment in time?
I'm actually good. I've been very zen. I've been totally in my heart space. And I don't listen to a lot of the stuff. I might like skim, but when it starts to feel like it's bringing me down, I'm like, and I'm out.
I love
So
that. So is it that you don't allow it to enter your space that allows you to maintain your space? Or is there something else that you're doing that allows you to hold that space of peace and being good amidst a world that is in turmoil?
I do my best every day to, like I said, stay in heart space and just stand in the fullness of love and come from that place of, compassion and understanding. It's not always easy, but when I find myself, like I said, when I find myself feeling like it's pulling me down, like to a lower frequency, then I'm like, and I got to step back, um, get in back into my heart space and come from a place of love. So it is on purpose. It's loving on purpose.
I love that. So for people who would like to do that, but sort of have their mouth is dropped, their jaw is dropped because they would love to be able to do that, but they have no idea how to do that. They're so caught up in sort of the world around them, and they're in the conversations with their friends who they thought were friends that they don't, now are blocking and saying they're not friends because they hold different beliefs or different systems, or people are challenging them or doing all this. What would you say to them to get to that heart space?
First of all, I always tell everyone self-care first, because in order to truly do self-care, you have to honor all pieces of self. And so when you honor all pieces of self, it's so much easier to honor other people. And plus, when you're really honoring, if someone comes to you in a way that is not honoring to you, then you will put up a boundary. You don't necessarily have to engage in the negativity. You can acknowledge, I understand where you're coming from. I hear what you're saying, but you don't get to yell at me, or you don't get to attack me. If you really want to have a conversation with me, I'll have a conversation with you, but you're going to have to do it in a respectful way. So
I love that. And for people who are in those situations, take heed of that. See if that would be something that works for you. I have a reframe on that I'd like to share with you, just because, not because I want you to hear what I think, but I'm interested in what your thoughts are on the reframe. Can I share that with you?
yep, go.
Um, I've been lucky enough in my life to sit with a lot of people, some of the greatest people in the world, some of the richest people, some of the smartest people, some of the most inspiring people. I've also been lucky enough to sit with some of the poorest people in the world, some of the people that nobody would listen to or don't think that they'd have anything to say. And I've been in both situations. I've been lucky enough to get to know their families, to get to know their kids, to um, to ask their counsel on things in my life, and for them to give me counsel. And with all that, the person that's changed my life the most is my daughter. And we're so close to each other. She's about to turn 31, and she just happens to be developmentally delayed. So she can't have a conversation like this, like you and I have. And so sometimes when she'll have a conversation, most times, in fact, people don't understand what she's saying. But she expects me to understand what she's saying because she's been with me, and I'm her dad, and she loves me, and she knows I try my hardest to understand what she's saying. And so when she says what she wants to say and I don't hear her, sometimes she'll just yell. She probably thinks you're getting old, Dad, and I want to make sure you hear me. But it normally isn't because I'm getting old and I can't hear, although there's a chance that that's the case. It's in the clarity of her words are not. I just can't understand it. I can't make sense of it. And so when she yells and I don't understand her, she'll throw a tantrum. And often I wish that the progression would be as quickly as I'm saying it is to you right now. But that tantrum may not come right then. It might come when we're in a store or in a friend's house or in a restaurant or in the car or walking along the beach or doing something. It will come seemingly out of nowhere. But in 15 years of watching it happen, the retrospect, I see that it doesn't come out of nowhere. It comes from the fact that she's tried to speak, she wasn't heard. She screamed and she wasn't heard, so she threw a tantrum so she could be seen and heard. And when I still don't really see her or hear her or get what she's saying, sometimes she'll come running at me and attack me, and she'll try and rip my shirt or bite me or do something. And that went on. I wish I could say I'm sensitive enough to have understood it quicker. I didn't. I wasn't. It took me 15 years to get to the place where I am now with her, where finally, in the midst of her rage, one point in time, she was running at me and I said, Elisa, you know I love you. This can't go on anymore. I can't understand you. Can you use something other than your words to tell me what you're saying? Because I just don't understand your words. I love you. I want to understand you. And she looked at me, and in perfect English, she said, I am, Daddy. And I looked at her and I said, what the what the F are you talking about? You are, Daddy. I mean, how in the hell are you doing that? Like, why haven't you told me this over 15 years? And I said, how are you doing that? And she put her finger to the side of her head. And I said to her, you little son of a gun, have you been putting thoughts in my head this whole time? And she did what you did, but with the weight of 15 years of trying to express herself, that became a laugh that came from the pit of her being. And we started to laugh together for 15 or 20 minutes, this contagious, raw, open laugh where she finally felt heard. And she knew that I had heard her, but I wasn't listening. And I knew that I had heard her, but I didn't even think she was capable of thinking the thoughts that she was giving, because she did. Sometimes you think when someone doesn't speak, they don't think. But she did think. And now I'm able to hear her. And what I realized is I got greedy. I said, I wonder if what she does is what everybody in the world does. And I started to watch the people that I work with and the companies that I work with and the institutions that I'm a part of. And I saw every single person does the same thing. When they speak and they don't get heard, they yell. When they yell and they don't get heard, they create a scene. They start to argue and create havoc and create chaos. When that doesn't work, they try to attack. And what I saw is that all of it can be prevented by what my developmentally delayed daughter taught me, by just listening to another person and hearing another person and finding a way to listen to what they want to say. Because when they're saying something and they're mad and they're yelling at us for a reason, because they want us to hear something. In my 65 years of being alive, no one's ever said to me, Danny, I want you to believe like me. But what they have said is, I want you to listen to me and hear me. I want you to understand me. I want you to acknowledge that you heard what I said and validate that I'm saying it. I want you to love and accept me for who I am. Put that now, not because I want to prove right or wrong or anything, but it's just a different perspective that I've grown into over the course of having this beautiful experience with my biggest teacher in my life, my daughter. Put that in perspective with what you said now about people creating these boundaries and borders around people that are not nice to us.
I guess my background is education. So I actually went and taught inside a building that some students were locked in. So these were kids that were used to not being seen and not being heard, just being yelled at and abused, and some were just kicked out, and then parents called them in as a runaway so that someone else would come pick them up. So when it came to trying to give education to a student like that, I didn't come from the teacher standpoint. I had to come from the emotional, I see you and I hear you. And in my room, you will be seen and you will be heard. I am here for you. I'm not here for me. I'm here for you. And I can't even remember this one day. I always told them right off the bat, like, don't start yelling and swearing at me, because I will literally shut you out. Like, I will not hear you. So I was and they would be surprised, because there was days they would come in and I would straight out tell them, I'm like, if you're coming in, just come in and tell me if you're having a rough day, you didn't get along with the staff, or you got in a fight with, somebody else in here. Just come and tell me. I need 5-10 minutes, put my head down, listen to some music, draw, color, whatever. And they're like, we can do that? And I'm like, yeah. I would prefer you would do that instead of just coming in and then just taking, ruining your whole entire day. You can choose, to say, hey, I need a minute. It's okay. And I even told them that, because there was days I'd drive to work and be like, oh, the traffic was horrible. I need 5 minutes, guys. Just so they could understand that everybody needs a minute sometimes. So for them, it wasn't even about teaching them first. It was showing them I believed in them first. It didn't matter who they were. It didn't matter where they came from. It didn't matter where they've been or where they're going. I believed in them. And once they understood that, everything changed for them. It's crazy. But so I totally understand that everyone wants to be heard.
Yeah. So I want the listener to jump in here and put your experience on the table for yourself. Are you able to look at somebody and say, I believe in you? Are you able to remove your agenda from your conversation for a few moments and just say, it's not about me teaching you or giving you something right now. I just want to hear what you have to say and be here for you, and because I believe in you. And I believe in those people who are yelling at me, even in the room that I'm in, that I believe in you enough that if I hold that space for you and I don't have an agenda for you and I just listen to you without yelling, you don't need to don't yell at me because I'll block you out, right? Like Laurie's saying. No, but talk to me. And you don't need to yell at me, because I'm willing to listen to you. Like if I'm willing to listen to you without you screaming, why scream? I'm willing to say what you want to say and let me hear what you want to say. And let me know that I hear you and accept you. What a world. What was the effect of that in the classrooms that you went into?
Amazing. And I literally had one girl came in one day. I don't know what kind of rough day she was having, but she just started swearing and cussing at me. And I just kind of like shifted focus to a different student. And like a week later, she came back and apologized for swearing. And I'm like, you were swearing at me? Because I literally, like I told him, like, when you start yelling, there's just like the switch in me that's just like, click, I'm not hearing you anymore. But she came and apologized. And it was so funny because then she became my biggest supporter, that same
Oh,
student. Because of the situation we were in, they were constantly in and out. Like I could come and have 10 new kids the next day. And so of course they came with their attitudes and expecting to be treated the way they were used to being treated. And one of them just started to just even just a tweak started to talk disrespectfully to me. And man, she jumped up out of her seat. She's like, don't you disrespect her? She's the only one that's ever going to have your back, and she's here for us, and she's going to listen to you. And I was just sitting there going,
yeah,
wow.
yeah. Well, and I
So
want the listener to hear the power of what happens when someone feels heard. Even in the way Laurie's saying it, which is, I'm not going to listen to you when you yell at me. Still, someone understood that they didn't need to yell, but she was there for them, that she would listen to them when they spoke regularly. Um, I can't overemphasize how important this idea of a revolution of listening, which I'm trying to start, is in your workplace, in your family, in your classroom, in your hospitals, and wherever it is you are. What's important to you?
was that to me?
Yes. What's important to you?
What's important to me is honestly helping other people be heard, helping other people even understand themselves. Because, as you go through life and people say things to you, you hear what they're saying. And sometimes you can take that and then you just keep thinking about it. And pretty soon it's your belief. And then whatever that, horrible thing they said to you, now you believe it's true and it's not. I'm like here to try to help set people free. Other people's words is not your truth. You don't have to be what somebody else says you are. So
Love
I
that.
try to help people to
Love that.
get rid of that.
And what makes you happy?
What makes me happy? Helping other people get free,
Yeah.
because I literally lived most of my life like hating myself. I grew up in abuse and trauma, and I carried it for years, and it became like a victim persona that I went around with. Well, just woe is me, poor me. Well, then, and I'd try to blame everyone else on my life being not the way I wanted. And it wasn't until I understood that, what, I did this. My actions and my choices, and the fact that I chose to keep believing lies about myself gave me what I saw, because actually you receive what you actually believe. Whatever you're believing is what you're bringing forth. So
Mm.
I had to switch my beliefs correctly to, we're all awesome and we have an amazing journey and we all have a purpose. We all have, you know, words. And basically, like, we need to be seen and heard, and we're here to be seen and heard, but we need to be seen and heard in the way that, you know, is right for our life's journey, I guess you could say. So,
I, I love that. I want to ask you a little bit to go a little deeper, and you can just tell me I don't want to do this, okay? But I just want to ask because it's coming through to me to ask. Doesn't mean you have to answer it, okay?
okay.
Um, if you were locked in a room and there was nobody to help, would you be unhappy?
No.
So what makes you happy?
My happiness comes from within me. And it wasn't something I had to teach myself that, because like I said, I was so miserable because I spent my whole life thinking that in order to have love, someone had to give it to me. And that's not the case. We have love already in us. It comes through us. So I spent actually a lot of time alone to get
Wow.
where I am. It wasn't about listening to what everyone else had to say, because it's so contradictory. This friend says, no, you need to do it this way. And this friend says, no, you need to do this way. And then you're just in there going, I don't know what to do, when you can just look inward and you'll know exactly what to do.
I
So,
love that. Now, I hope the listener followed that train of thought because what I initially heard Laurie say is what makes me happy is giving to other people and helping other people see this. And then when I asked her if she was in a room by herself, would she be unhappy? Because if, obviously, if what makes her happy is interacting with other people and helping them see it, if no one was around, would she be unhappy? And the beautiful answer that she said after that was, no, happiness comes from within in us, and it doesn't depend on me doing anything for anybody or anything anybody does for me. It has finding that happiness within. And I want to ask the listener, have you found that happiness within? Are you doing things for other people not saying this is what Laurie's doing, but because a lot of people that I watch do things for other people feel that they're not lovable if they don't do something for us. Do you know how lovable you are just as you are? And can you just be accept that and be loved for that, just for the sheer being of who you are, with all your foibles, with all your craziness, with all your problems, with all your beauty, with all your grace? You are lovable beyond measure. Can you feel that? Let's change it up a little bit, okay?
Okay.
I want to tell you before I go into the lightning round that I suck at a lightning round. If you ever heard any of my shows, I say it every show. I'm not physically not capable of doing a lightning round because I'm too curious, but I do it anyway, okay? The first few
Okay.
ones will be pretty easy, and we'll go lightning. It makes me feel good that I actually could do a lightning round for a couple of questions, but then afterwards I get curious. Dog or cat person?
Ooh, that's a hard one. I love them both. I'd have to say cats, otherwise the two I have right now will get offended.
Okay. We do not want to offend your cats
No,
under
because
no.
they'll poop in your shoe.
That's right.
Yeah,
We don't want to do that. Coffee or tea?
definitely coffee.
Okay. Would you say you're conservative or liberal?
Is there a middle row?
Okay, you got it.
Right down the
What
middle.
would? All right, good. Shy or outgoing?
I grew up very shy, but I'm actually very outgoing.
So let me ask you about that because I'm probably when I would tell my friends that I'm actually a very shy person, they would say, "What are you crazy? You're like the most outgoing person you ever want to meet." I mean, and look what I'm doing. I'm talking to hundreds and hundreds of strangers without no, without any hesitation. But really, I believe in myself. I'm a really shy person. Is that how you feel also, or do you now believe you've gone from shy to outgoing?
I would say I was shy when I was little because of my upbringing. If I was so quiet that I wasn't seen, then I wasn't, told horrible things. And so I
Okay.
was just very quiet and shy, just kind of, it was more of a protective, if I'm not seen, then I can't get hurt kind of thing. And so as I've healed, I think I would have always been outgoing if it wouldn't have been for that. But it wasn't until I actually kind of healed myself, and now I'm just kind of weird. My daughter and I, we do a lot of weird things together, and people are always like, "Are you guys like this all the time?" Yes, we are.
I love that. For people who are listening who have been in that same situation, perhaps, or just feel that they don't know how to get away from their shyness, or you're really saying, I think I was always outgoing. I use shy as a mechanism to protect myself. So let's stay in that arena. For people who have been told it's better to be seen and not heard, or not even to be seen, and hid because they were scared if they were seen, what would happen? What would you say to them now from the other side of that? Because one of the things that happens so often is we think the way the world is right now is the way the world's always going to be. But those things change. The reason why I like the image of a mosaic so much is it's not like a jigsaw puzzle where you're placed in this point and that's where you have to stay and that's the exact right place for you. A mosaic is if your piece is it is surrounded by other pieces that no longer fit, you can always take that piece out and move it. Even if you have to break the mosaic, it's all made up of broken pieces anyway. You just move it to another place. How did you make that move from hiding so you wouldn't be seen to coming out and showing yourself?
Uh, Very slowly. It
Mm.
was really was a journey all in itself, just learning to accept all of my pieces. Because growing up, like just for years, I just was like, man, if I could just cut this, this mistake out of my life, and just get rid of, like, from age 5 to 21, and just little pieces here. Like, I really was so um, hateful towards myself that I thought that all these broken pieces of me made me broken, but that's not the truth. I was whole. I just made some mistakes. It's just
Right.
learning to accept all of the mistakes and loving every single piece, because all of those pieces made me who I am now. If I was to get rid of them, then I wouldn't be me.
Laurie, without knowing it, or maybe with knowing it, you could be the perfect spokesperson for the mosaic. Because when you think of what a mosaic is, it's all of the pieces coming together to create something beautiful. and they can't be beautiful without all it's not made up of a piece of one piece that looks a
Yeah.
certain way or feels a certain, made up of all different pieces that look different, feel different, are different sizes, different shapes, different, some are broken, some are whole. When you say that you accepted all the pieces, how? For someone who's listening and saying, gosh, how did she do that? I'm going to
With
ask that
grace.
question for you.
Great. We have grace is just given to us. And it was just a matter, like I said, when I started to honor all of my parts, that meant all of the pieces, even in the past, all of my mistakes, all of my limitations, or all the dumb things I said or did, they're still pieces of me. And honestly, what really was an eye opener for me was I have visions sometimes. And I was just sitting there one day and I saw myself as I am now. And then every year of my life, all the way down to when I was a newborn baby. And so it's almost like if you can kind of like picture like a shadow of all of my life. And here I am now holding myself at birth. And, it should be a happy baby, but there was like all these cuts on her little bitty legs of my, because that's literally what I was trying to do myself, because I just wanted to cut all these pieces out. Well, when you do that, you're literally damaging everything. Your whole essence is being damaged when you try to get rid of pieces of you, because all those pieces are what make you beautiful, and that's what makes you unique and authentic. And so seeing that, like, I just burst into tears, because I'm like, oh my gosh, that's what I was doing to myself without even realizing what I was doing. By not accepting all of me, I was hurting myself. So you literally hurt yourself by not loving all of your pieces, because like I said, all of your pieces are beautiful. And just acknowledging that and giving yourself grace and zero judgment was like the key for me. Every time, I would think of something, I'm like, oh, I just did that. It's okay. I made a mistake 5 minutes ago. I was okay. Now I learned from it. I'm not going to do that again.
Yeah.
So, it's all learning moments. Don't look at it as, oh my God, I failed. No, you made a mistake and now you can grow from it. You can grow huge. The more you dig into your oopsies, the bigger and more passionate you can become, because the more you accept yourself, so much easier to accept other people.
Yeah. I think I like sucking at lightning rounds because I think the best information comes out, right? But
Right.
have you always felt like you fit into the world, or have you always felt like you're a little different?
I always felt like I was basically, the world's a house and I'm outside peeking in the window going, well, that looks cool in there.
Do you think other people feel the same as you, or do you think other people feel like they fit in?
I'm going to say, I think more people feel like they're looking in, because when you don't accept all of your pieces, you don't see the whole picture. And therefore, yeah, you're almost like looking at the house is actually you
Yeah.
completely, all of you, the love and everything's in that house. But since you're not accepting all your pieces, the piece that you are accepting at that moment is what's looking in the window. I just had that.
Yeah. I love it because one of the things that surprised me in the data that I'm getting from the questions I'm asking people is I didn't think people would feel different in the numbers that they do on that question. And maybe it's just the population that is drawn to the show. But I would say 95% of the people say they feel different. And so I wonder why we're trying to fit into a world where nobody fits into. Any ideas?
I think because we're always looking outside of ourselves. We're always looking outside of ourselves for acceptance and for what to do. And if everyone would start, like I said, honoring all their pieces and honoring life itself, then all of a sudden everyone fits, because everyone's honoring their own life and their own path and their own purpose. Because, like I said, everyone's journey is beautiful and we are all connected. And we're so busy comparing. If we weren't comparing, we'd be friends.
Yeah. Let's make it a little more personal. What are you most scared of?
uh, Probably heights. I used to have nightmares of driving off a bridge in a car.
Wow.
So I don't
Wow.
know why, but yeah, heights.
And to this day, when you go up high, you're scared.
Oh, you should see me when I see big bridges coming. I'm like, oh, bridge. Oh, it's a really long one. It's really tall. Yeah.
Wow. Wow. Um, what most excites you?
Most excites me. I don't know. The first thing that came to mind is sleeping in. Being able to sleep in and wake up when I feel like it.
When
Yeah.
was the last time you did that?
I do that a lot now, actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So that you have something, then that's something you do that excites you as well. Um, what are you most hopeful for?
I am most hopeful for a lot of people accepting all of their pieces and honoring themselves. And because I think when I sit there and think about it, if I, for every person that I help learn to honor themselves and love themselves in the way they're supposed to, and they stand in this fullness of love, think of the world. Like even just half the population is coming from the fullness of love. What different that world would look like out there.
I'm going to ask you something, not because it is, again, not because I want you to believe what I believe, but just because I believe a little differently than you. And I'd love to hear your point of view of why you believe what you believe. Not, you understand? I'm not
Yeah.
asking you to believe. Uh, uh, I sort of feel like we've been living in a vertical reality for a long time, where people are helping people. People are fixed. The self-help world, the self-helpers are helped by the people who are self-help, or self-help
Mm-hmm.
experts, and I feel like that world is sort of demolishing a little bit. I feel like people aren't as interested in that world anymore. And I feel like maybe because the mosaic is the image that I use, that a mosaic reality is coming to us. And mosaic, no one is higher than the other. No one's bigger than no one's teaching the other. The idea of a mosaic is everyone just comes together and just holds the space for each other to be themselves and loves each other. And in coming together, all the brokenness that was there individually comes together and creates something more beautiful than you could ever imagine when it comes together. But it's not because someone's fixing somebody or changing somebody or helping somebody or doing anything for anybody. It's just because we come together and we're loving each other. I seem to have heard, and I could be wrong, so please, I'm just lobbing it over to get a better understanding from you of what you're saying. That you said is if I could help people to put all their pieces together or do that. Why do you think it's so important to help people rather than just be there and accept people?
The part of that I mean by like helping them is guiding them to full acceptance of themselves so that they don't have to look outside themselves. So basically, say I came in and I talked to them and I helped them, like you had asked me previously, like, how do you come from that place of love? So if I'm teaching them to do that, they don't need me anymore. They can stand completely on their own in that fullness of love. And because the more you accept yourself as someone amazing and beautiful, and this is your journey, mistakes and all, then you accept your neighbor mistakes and all, and that person mistakes and all, and that person mistakes and all. It isn't so much that I'm trying to change them anyway. I'm trying to get them to accept all of their pieces and understand they're
Did
already beautiful.
did someone do that for you?
Yes and no. I did take a bunch of different coaching certifications, but within it, because a lot of that had to do with manifesting what you wanted. And so
Mm-hmm.
while all the people, all my accountability partners are working on how to manifest, I'm over here going, I just want to love myself. So I was the one that spent every single day on purpose trying to stay in heart space, trying to get out of my head into my heart, out of my head into my heart. And I would get there for like a second and then be right back out. And then I get there for a second and then by 5 seconds. And it was just a matter of just, it's like I can't get someone in there. They have to be willing to put in the work to actually keep going. I'm amazing. I'm amazing. I'm awesome. Get out of my head, pull into my heart, get into my heart. Because the more you do that, then it's easier to do,
Gotcha.
but it's still a process.
So, are you old enough to remember overhead projectors? Do you know what an overhead projector is?
I think so. You're talking about just the little thing had the wheels and it rolled it up and had the
Yeah, you have this. You have a light machine down
yeah,
here, and then you have this thing that comes up, and you put a piece of plastic with
yeah,
something drawn on it, and it shows on the
yeah,
screen. I'm sure there's some, new age model of that I could use that people would go. Are you talking about like a PowerPoint or something? But I'm not
yeah.
that. I'm talking about.
Then you got to roll in.
I would love for you to imagine these two statements that I thought I heard you say on an overhead projector.
Okay.
No one was there really for me to do that. I took coaching programs and I did all that stuff, but I had to do it on, I had to figure it out because you can't really take somebody to that place. You have to, they have to discover it. And until they want it and discover it and go and make their mistakes, they'll never see it. Even though you're there, you want to help it, they can't see it until they're ready to take it. And this, so that's one sheet that's on there, which
Mm-hmm.
and I want to put you to put the other sheet on there that I'm here to help people to get to that place because if I once I help them, they won't need me anymore. Is there any lack of resonance? Like what do you see on the screen in front of you when you put both those images on that screen? Do they harmonize with each other or are they slightly out of resonance?
Um, I think they harmonize with each other because if I wouldn't have been going through the coaching and having my mentors and my accountability partners, because I would get stuck because we have blocks because like especially people like me that I'm really really stubborn, and so it was really hard sometimes for me to really admit and dig into some of my things. So I'd have to call one of my accountability partners and be like, okay, I'm stuck. So basically, that's why I say I'm a guide, not so much because you do get stuck in your head sometimes and you need that person that's going to come from full acceptance and is not going to tell you what to do, but ask you the right questions to open you up to go, oh, that's where that's coming from. So sometimes it's just a matter of having that person hear the words that are coming in your mouth that you're so used to saying that you don't realize is connected to something deeper. So
So when you say you help people to do it, it really isn't because you tell them what to do. It's because you question some of the answers that they give. So then I understand that now. That's
yeah.
sort of what it can be. And I want to just ask the listeners to get involved here. Do you count on people to teach you, to guide you, to help you? Or do you feel okay being stuck and feel okay being in this place where you just don't know what to do and that you allow yourself that space to be there and then just through allowing your space to be there, loving and accepting yourself. I spoke to someone else earlier in this room who said, I just go through all these things and I just forgive myself. And in forgiving myself, it just like lets it go. And yet the whole purpose of this room of why I do this is to love and accept and trust people and give people that trust so that they feel okay letting go of all the things that they're not so that they can do it. But it's not that I'm doing anything. It's just that I'm trusting them. Do you understand sort of what I'm saying? And for listeners too, what's your way of operating? Talk to me
What's
about
my way?
trust. Yeah, talk to me about trust. How trust on a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being I trust everything and everybody and 1 being I don't trust anything. Where would you say you sit?
I'd probably say an 8 because I'm not perfect at it because there'll get to moments where I'm like, I'm in a really spot that I don't know, I have no control at all. That in there's moments, like when you really dive in and you allow surrender. And so I can't say I'm at a perfect 10 because still have my moments where I'm like, I have no idea what this is going to look like, but I know I realize it's out of my realm of control. So I just have to trust that it's all going to fall where it's supposed to. So
Yeah.
yeah, an 8.
What's a place where you wish you would have trusted and you didn't?
Oh man. Um, there's one that stands out very because like I said, I have a background in education and I kept hearing intuition telling me to leave. So back in like 2015, yeah, I left. I ended up teaching that one year and I was like, okay, I'm done. I'm gonna go do something else. Had no idea what I was doing. And so as I sat there without a job for 7 months and I saw my money starting to disappear and I started to come from a place of panic and lack, if I would have went back and just trusted just one more month, like if I would have, because basically like that last month I had just enough money to pay all of my bills, but I freaked out. And so I didn't pay this credit card and I didn't pay that. And I just paid the absolute, like I had to pay rent and the car, just what
Right.
I actually knew I had to have. And then I ended up getting a job and then I ended up, debt collectors just because that one month just escalated everything. If I would have
Right.
just stood fast in my belief that everything was going to work out and paid all my bills that month, I would have been okay. And so then I spent like the last 4 years after that digging myself out of the hole that created. So
Wow.
if I would have just trusted just that one, and said it's going to be okay. Yeah.
So in retrospect, it's so easy to look back like you're doing and say, boy, well, I could have saved myself a lot of trouble had I done that. How do you bring retrospect into the moment? And how do you, when you don't trust? Because you trust, when I asked you, 8 is a big level to trust. I mean, I don't think most people would answer 8. So I love that you answered 8. How do you get through that place where you normally don't trust and you trust?
I actually, a couple weeks ago, I like to sit out on my little patio and look at the stars at night. It's like one of my favorite calming things to do. And I was just laying there and I was thinking about that same kind of moment that I realized, I what do I want to do when I look back, 2 years from now? Do I want to look at myself as having, oh my God, I panicked and I freaked out and I didn't have any reason to? Or do I want to look back and go, it was kind of a rough moment, but I decided everything has always worked out because I look back and even though I've been through a bunch of crap, it somehow has always worked out. And so I realized, I'd rather look back in 5 years and go, well, I was at this moment where I could have freaked out and I chose not to. I actually kept it together. I thought about that and I'm just like, you know what? I don't want to look back like I do because I had that moment that I told you about. I look back at it
Yeah.
all the time going, man, if I would have just trusted my intuition and paid all that, and so I don't ever want to look back again and go, I freaked out and I didn't need to.
So let me ask you, because I think everything in the world speaks to us if we listen to it. What do you think that moment of not trusting yourself and all that you've put up with has is saying to you? I mean, I know you're saying that if I would have trusted, then I wouldn't have gone through it. But is it saying something else to you by any chance?
Well, I think it's two things. I think it's telling me to trust my own intuition, first of all, and two, to acknowledge. And I'm going to show you that this the other morning, this popped into my head, and I thought it was like the most amazing thing to think about, um, because we always, well, not all of us. I know I am. I'm very control oriented. Like I want to try to shove puzzle pieces where they don't go because I want it to just everything to be,
Yeah.
right. And I had this thought in my head of thinking about, when you're expecting, and this could be the person that's carrying it or even the dad, you don't know what's going on in there. So all you can do is make sure you're taking your vitamins and getting your sleep and drinking your water and getting a little exercise and take care of the whole self. Because you don't have to stop and go, oh, whoa, whoa, whoa. Oh, it's past 3 o'clock. I was supposed to make the lungs today. I was supposed to do the legs. Oh my gosh,
Right.
they're not gonna have legs. And it we don't have to hold on so tightly when things are just going to work the way they're supposed to. So that was just
Right.
like this eye-opening thing I had, and that was just this week. It was a couple days ago, and I was like,
Love
that's a
it.
really good point.
A really good point. So would it be fair to say that some of the things that keeps you from trusting is the thought that you're the one that's actually doing it and that there's actually some greater force that's actually doing what we're doing anyway, or would that not be a fair thought? Like your example of the baby being born inside of you, we can think that we're creating these things, but something else is creating it. It's happening independent of us. Do you think that's true for all of life? Do you think that there's something else that's creating the life that we're living in if we would just sit and accept it and not try to control it and just be there with it and allow it, that we would be okay?
Yeah. I do, because it seems like every time that I feel like we get in our own way all of
Did
the
you feel a
time.
shift that did you feel a shift that just happened when you said yes, when you just said that? Yeah. Did you notice a shift in your energy?
Did I?
You don't have to. I just noticed that somehow all this thought, because I think you said earlier on you're you like to have control over certain things,
Right. Yeah.
and somehow when you just said that, yeah, it was like it was like I can let go of that because maybe that's true, and maybe that's really what I believe anyway. That just like that baby is forming without the mom creating all that my life is forming that way without me having to create it and do it. And if I could just get out of the way and just shift to that place where it's okay, or that I didn't have to change somebody else or help somebody else, that it's all happening. And I'm just like fortunate enough to be a player in the game of it, but it'll happen without me also. As much as with me, it would happen without me. Does that bring comfort to you to know that, or does that confuse you?
No, I mean it's comforting, but when you're in the moment, Because it's easier when you're looking on the outside, watching someone
Right.
else. You're like, just let go of it. It's no problem. But when it's your own, you're like, oh,
Like, what do you mean let go of it? I mean, how can I understand. No, I
yeah.
completely get it. And I know, I mean, I remember being so frustrated when someone said to me, let go. And I said, I have no idea how to let go. And they said, sure you do. Pick up a pencil. And I picked up a pencil. They said, put it out in front of you. And I put it out in front of you. And they said, let it go. And I let it go. They said, so you know how to let go. You just let go of the pencil perfectly. Why can't you let go of what you're feeling that way? I said, I don't know. I just can't. It's not like a pencil, right? You know, but it's, if you had 2 minutes right now to speak to the world and say something to a world that's listening to you without hesitation, without opposition, what would you say? And what would you say from your heart, not from your head? What would you say in a way that you've never said it before to people that are listening right now?
In a way, I've never said it before.
In a way you've never said it before. I don't want your script. I want you.
Um, okay, so I would say that there's so much more out there that we don't understand and know. Like there's so much more to know. And that when we try to control everything, we don't hear. It's a matter of letting go and being still and listening to it, mostly yourself, because I believe that innately we all know where we're supposed to be going and what we're supposed to be doing if we just listen instead of asking everybody else around us. I'm a believer that. Oh,
Can we time out? I want you to
okay.
take the next minute and not say you and we and just say I. And let me hear how that would go to people who you're talking to. In other words, I want you to make it more personal, if you don't mind, and say, when I do this, I understand this. And rather than when you do that. Because one goes from a teacher place, which you are a beautiful teacher. You're so in that classroom, right? But I want you to talk to them from your heart as just you and me.
Um, okay. Think about this a minute. Okay, so when I learn to let go and allow and surrender and trust and believe in the beauty that is life and love, it takes a lot of weight off of me because then I can, in essence, don't have to control everything. I can sit back and drink my coffee, play with my cat, and just enjoy life. I can sleep in and wake up when I want to wake up and know that magic is happening behind me. I come from glittery magic, and therefore, the power that I have in what I'm believing in is what I'm pulling towards me. So what I believe I will receive. And so if I keep believing that I have to control everything, then nothing's ever going to work out because I have no idea what I'm doing really in the scheme
Right.
of things. So if I let go and allow, then I can be at peace.
How true did that statement feel to the essence of who you are when you just said it?
It felt really good.
Yeah, I could feel it. And it felt so different. And not that everything else you have said hasn't felt good, but it felt so different than everything else you said, to me at least. And my ears trained to hear, different things than most people hear. I mean, everything you said was so beautiful. And I'm so happy we had this conversation. And I'm so happy you came into this room and I got to get to know you a little bit. But I'm so happy that you accepted my challenge and just came from that place where it was like, this is what, like, I can't believe it. I could just like let go and I don't have to have the control and everything will work out. And that's what I really believe, because I believe I'm connected to this magic that makes things happen. It was so like amazing. I want to thank you for your courage in doing that and just for sharing that part of you. And I want to ask people who are listening, can you do the same thing? Can you remove yourself from a third person you? And instead of teaching people, just share with people who you are and see how beautiful that is for a minute. Laurie, I want to thank you so much for spending your time. I can't believe how quickly it all goes. But thank you. I want you to send me your headshot and all of your social media links, your website. But is there a place, one place where you can tell people is the surest place when they look on the social media links of all the places? What's the best way to get in touch with you?
Would be my website, solovelegacy.com.
Okay. And that will all be in the show notes, so you can don't have to worry about spelling it or finding it, and along with every other link that she has to every other thing that she does. Um, Thank you so much for being here with us and coming and sharing yourself. And to those of you who listen to the show, thank you so much for continuing to listen, or if this was your first time, thank you for listening. If you liked what you heard in the show, share it with people you like. That's the way things grow. And I want to close with the challenge that I ask every show. I want to challenge each one of you to find someone you don't know. Laurie was a complete stranger when she walked into the room. I knew nothing about her. After this 45 minutes of conversation, I feel like she's a friend. I feel like I touched her heart and she touched my heart. And what could be more valuable than that? And so I'd like to invite you to find a stranger, someone you don't know, and just start to have a conversation with them and listen to them and see what happens. When we live in a world of strangers, we live in a strange world. When we live in a world of friends, we live in a friendly world. So live friendly. Be kind to each other. Treat each other nicely. Laurie, before we go out, is there any last thing you want to say?
Yeah, love yourself. Accept all of your pieces. You're beautiful.
Beautiful. Thank you again for that. Again, thank you folks for listening. Until the next stranger comes into the room, be friends, be kind, be happy, live connected, put your pieces together, let them all shine, and you'll find you are a beautiful mosaic. Until the next time, stay happy. Ciao.